Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
You are listening to the Financial Survival Network.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1230 WBZT. Well, you all know and love him. Andrew Hoffman here with the Monday rant. And things, of course, are always looking better when Andy gets done talking about them. Andy, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
All right. So what's going on here in the world?
Well, the Fed is meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday. And if I recall, it was only a month ago where the entire world said that the Fed was going to taper, except for myself and a very small group of people who said it would never happen.
And me, and I.
And now, as it turns out, they're not only this meeting on Wednesday, they're not even talking about, because it's such a fait accompli that they're not going to do anything. Now, even the Goldman Sachs of the world are saying nothing until at least March. And I am going to reiterate, since I have a bit of credibility on this topic now, that not only will there never, ever, ever be tapering, but we are likely to see QE5 sometime in the very near future, possibly even in the first quarter of next year.
Mm-hmm. QE5, when did 4 happen? Did I miss that?
In fact, my piece today, which is out shortly, I actually broke down the timeline of when everything has happened and showed how the overt money spent by the Fed has been $10 trillion in the past 5 years, and that the real GDP over that time has been the worst in centuries in this country. And of course, the real GDP is dependent on fraudulent inflation numbers. So what I expect now, when you see anyone who's looking at the numbers, the housing numbers, we had this minuscule increase. The 10-year went from 1.5 to 3%, and everyone acts like it's a big deal, because the historic average is like 6%. And just that little increase, and it only got up to the high 2s for basically 2 or 3 weeks, we are now seeing the impact. Plunging mortgage applications, plunging home buying and refinancing activity. And as you saw today, an actual 7% drop in 1 month in pending home sales. So the Fed is desperately going to try to reinflate this market, which is, has nothing left to inflate. I mean, they could try to hyperinflate it in nominal terms, but in real terms, that and the stock market, like in Venezuela, are shortly going to be seeing dramatic real declines.
And by the way, with housing, there are new rules being perpetrated by the Consumer Financial Protection Board, Richard Cordray, which will make it much more difficult for the Joe Six-Pack type buyer to get a home mortgage. Debt-to-income rules being much more strict. And by the way, I'm not coming out against these. The ability to resell mortgages on the secondary mortgage market will be made much more difficult if you have less than a 20% down payment. A bunch of other rules. Credit repair, you're not going to be able to conduct credit repair after you've put in a mortgage application. All these little rules aimed at, much of them, getting the government out of the mortgage business, which can only be good.
How could the government get out of the mortgage business? They right now are originating, I think it's like 90% of all the mortgages.
90%. And the fact of the matter is that if these rules take effect, you will see a private secondary market for mortgages emerge. This isn't the right way to do it. It isn't a healthy way to do it. We're way past that. But eventually, the market will be privatized, whether the feds do anything or not. But you're going to see lower-end homes, especially FHA types. Man, that market will be decimated, Andy, like you can't believe. And this will throw the country into, well, we've never really been out of a recession, depression, but it will make it obvious to all that double dip, triple dip, quadruple dip, whatever you want to call it, we're in it. And there won't be any room for debate.
This would be suicide. In fact, it would almost look like they're sabotaging, because, again, when you become the buyer of last resort, and again, between Fannie and Freddie and FHB and all these things, the government really does originate or at least own 90% of all the mortgages. They now own a third of all the Treasury bonds. They now own a half of all the mortgage bonds. They can't get out of the business. That's the whole point. That's what I'm saying. There is no exit. They can't exit from printing money, and they can't exit from mortgages. If they are actually, and I'm looking at an article on what you just talked about, I'll read it when we get off. If they're actually proposing that to make it difficult to buy, it's only going to, I mean, things could collapse in a hurry. We are already at a point where there's no more marginal buyers left. The only buyers in the market have been these, these vulture funds from Wall Street getting the free Fed money. And now they're all getting out of the business, partly because there is no business and partly because they see what's coming. So I can't even imagine how catastrophic this is going to be. And again, it underscores maybe they want to get out of the mortgage business, but on the other hand, they're going to have to increase the QE because they're going to have to keep the rates down for whoever else wants to go in it. And at this point, who wants to go in it after what happened the last 5 years?
Oh, for sure. And yeah, it's going to be devastating. And the whole way they propped up the market by, number one, really contracting the supply, by encouraging these hedge funds and Wall Street to buy up wholesale from the banks and from the government, the REOs, and number two, by artificially cutting the rates and making a flood of cash available to home buyers. The combination of the two created the appearance of a housing recovery, which in fact was never there. And now we're going to see the ugly truth very shortly rear its ugly head, and it ain't going to be pretty.
I mean, the fact is, again, the BEA itself, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, admitted, I think I put it in an article a few months ago, they admitted that something like 70% of all the GDP, of all the economic activity in America over the past 3 or 4 quarters has been solely due to the housing market. And, whether it's mortgages, banks, Home Depot, you name it. So now they're pulling that out. I can't even imagine. There's nothing left to replace it. I mean, when home prices go, so many people lost so much wealth in the housing market in 2008 through 2012. But now, if you take the last remaining piece of confidence they had and realize that there's no one left to save them, that's going to destroy confidence beyond belief. And, again, remember, there's not much confidence to start with. That's why we have 50 million people on food stamps and 11 million people on disability and rising.
Yep, you're right about that. And, confidence starts with con, and the whole recovery has just been one giant con.
Yeah, it's always a recovery, and there's always an exit strategy, and there's tapering, and there's green shoots. But the fact is, as you'll see in the article that's out today, which I think I called it QE failure by the numbers, there is not one substantive piece that anything that's been done in the past 5 years has helped anyone except the bankers that received the free money.
You nailed it there. That's what it comes down to. It's all about the banksters, not about you, not about me, not about helping the real economy. It's about helping the banksters.
Yeah, and it's you look at the earnings of the bankers. Look, we know the stock market is propped, and as I said, they may well be able to hyperinflate it in nominal terms, as they've been doing in Venezuela and several other places. I mean, I saw it today. South African stocks hit all-time highs today. I'm going, South African? That country is a complete mess. The currency is down 35% in the last 2 years. Their main business is mining, which has been completely obliterated.
We know about mining.
Strikes and cost increase. I mean, beyond belief. Can you imagine South Africa having record high stock prices? So the point is, look, it's only a matter of time before anything that's up in nominal terms that should not be up is going to start plunging in real terms. And the real items of value in the world, that would be, when you're talking about money, obviously gold and silver. And when you're talking about food and other things that you need to live, those are going to be the only things that survive in real terms.
Yeah, well, how can it be any other way, realistically? Here, come on.
And that's what happened in Weimar, Germany, and all the other places, by the way. I mean, I put it out there many times. The stock market in Germany went up huge, but guess what? The cost of living went up much more. And of course, the prices of gold and silver went up much, much more.
Yeah, and the price of non-inflationary currencies as well, just like the dollar became the de facto currency in Zimbabwe during their hyperinflation, and other currencies, the euro, all that.
I mean, I just find it hilarious, all the talk about the dollar falling. I mean, not hilarious per se if you're traveling overseas, but the fact is, to see the fact that Europe is on the verge of collapse, and it is. I mean, the numbers coming out of the pigs are just getting worse each day, and France, you name it. And the fact that the euro is actually up 35% against the dollar over the last decade, and the dollar is sitting pretty near its low against the euro for all these years, and now it's falling dramatically against the euro in the last few weeks. Just shows you how weak the global sentiment is for the dollar. And again, none of these countries want to sell dollars. The Chinese, Japanese, they have trillions of them, but they know that they have to because they know that it's so far above where it should be.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. And hey, one prediction I want to make concerning the dollar and the euro, and it's an important one, and we're going to talk about it up next. You want to hear it? On the financialsurvivalnetwork.com, 1230 WBZT.
Hi, it's Kerry Lutz. I recently decided to move my retirement account into physical precious metals to hedge against the coming times. If you want to move an existing retirement account into physical precious metals that you can hold in your hand, tax-free, there's no company that can do it more quickly and efficiently than Regal Assets. It took them just 24 hours to open my new IRA account, and all I had to do was fill out one simple form. The best part is that Regal Assets does all the work for you. They cover the setup and administrative costs for 2013. If you're interested in making the same move I did, call 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620. That's 855-678-6620, or visit them at regalassets.com. You'll be glad you did, and tell them Kerry sent you.
We're back on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Kerry Lutz speaking with Andy Hoffman for our regular Monday morning/afternoon discussion. So, Andy, everything has been going wrong in the U.S. Shutdown, debt ceiling, eroding credibility, implosion of Obamacare, which, by the way, I went back in my show notes. I discussed it in detail 6 months ago, April 8th, I believe it was. And I've been getting a lot of press about that. I have a lot of the lamestream media just about calling me. You're going to be hearing a lot about it in the next couple of weeks. But anyway, enough tooting my own horn. You get sick of that after a while. Even I get sick of hearing myself do it. But what's going to happen next here, because we're on such a downer, is you need to switch the story, because you can't go to war right now. Obviously, Syria, whatever, is off the table unless there's a major terrorist strike, which I've got some back channel info I'll tell you about after. I don't want to start spreading rumors on the show. Not right thing to do. But what I do believe is going to happen next is something's going to happen in Europe or in Japan, very substantial, in one of the pigs or with the yen. I don't know what's going to happen, but they have to shift the discussion from the U.S. over to something else, because it's killing them, It's killing the politicians. It's killing the elite rulers. They need to start talking about somebody else that it's even worse going on there. And in the next week or so, the euro is going to hit a brick wall, the yen's going to hit a brick wall, they're going to have a disaster, and the whole dialogue, the conversation is going to switch gears yet again onto, oh my God, can you believe how bad it's going over there? My God, it's bad here, but it's really bad over there. Mark my words, we're just about ready for the 1984 Newspeak shift to occur yet again.
Well, that's been the formula. And again, per what I just said, like I see even the guy like Jim Sinclair says the dollar index is going to 53 or whatever. And I'm going, how could that possibly happen? Because that would imply that people would be racing into euros. First of all, if the dollar plunges like that, it's going to have worldwide ramifications. There's not going to be a nation on earth that isn't scorched by something like that happening. That could be, it will be the end game. It will be the hyperinflation if the dollar ever does that. So, we pinball back and forth. The dollar goes to 80, it goes to 75, it goes to 85, it goes back and forth. And as you say, there always seems to be a way to go from one crisis to the other. And they'll go back to Abenomics and say, why is it not working? Or they'll go back to Greece and say, well, it still has record unemployment and they need another bailout. Why is it that we've stopped talking about them? But the fact is, these guys, they're not Big Brother. They're a bunch of morons as far as I'm concerned. They wake up each day playing, how do we kick the can for one more day? And at some point, it'll blow up in their face. So, yeah, they'd like to shift the focus to Europe, and maybe it'll work this time around. But the fact is, look what just happened in the United States. We have effectively gotten rid of the debt ceiling forever. We have another government shutdown looming in 2 months, heck, in 3 months. In 2 months, we have to deal with another budget, which will not be passed. So what will happen then? And then, of course, there's all these other black swans around. Who knows if something will happen serious. So, look, this is their game plan to go from crisis to crisis. But, eventually it's not going to work. They have no more ammo. They can't print their way out of the next crisis. And if it happens to be in Europe or if it's here in Japan, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of, can they kick the can one more time? And at some point they won't be able to.
Yep. But for right now, can kicking is in season and it's going to happen. And I don't know if you heard, but basically Obamacare, the system shut down over the weekend. The servers shut down and the Democrats want to get a refund from the contractors. And you know how well that's going to go, huh?
I didn't know that it was ever up.
Yeah, well,
as far as what I've seen, it's literally been broken from minute one. They'll figure out a way to get it to work. I mean, on the internet, but that doesn't mean it's going to work as a program. I said the second that it was passed that it's the worst piece of legislation in American history, which is saying quite a lot. And this early start is not helping the detractors of that thesis anything.
No, they're not going to get it to work by the end of November. They're just saying that. You know what it's like? You ever had any work done around your house, ever build a house or have to do a new kitchen or something? And you say to the contractor, Vinny, man, when is this thing going to be done? And he looks you in the eye and he says, 2 weeks. And you know that he is totally full of crap. But, that's what they say. And in programming, when you're dealing with contractors, it's like they say, oh, it'll be a month, end of the month,
Oh, it certainly won't be the end of November. I mean, no. I'm saying they will eventually get it done. That maybe it works online, but it may take a year to get it to work online. And the bigger question is, how much will the economy be destroyed by what it's actually trying to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. It just this thing ain't going to work for a while, and by the time it does work, it's going to be too late.
But don't worry, Obama will come on with a whole bunch of speeches where he says, "Make no mistake, it will work." Make no mistake, everything that you have said has been a lie. Everything that you have done has been wrong. And the same goes for your predecessors, and the same goes for whoever comes after you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, this thing is just an epic fail. And exactly what we said was going to go wrong with it is is exactly what did happen, and there is no fixing it because there's a lot of technical reasons why. I don't want to bore you with them because hey.
And just wait till the employee mandate, because look, time is flying here. They've delayed it until January 1st, 2015. But, time's flying here. We'll look up and that'll come right upon us. And when that comes, it's one thing where companies have been firing full-time employees now. Just wait till when they actually implement it, how many people are going to get fired. And then, of course, then the government's going to raise taxes to socialist country levels. We'll have a 50% federal tax rate like they do in the rest of the socialist countries. We'll see how the economy responds to that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't want to quite say that it's going to work out exactly that way, Andy. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen between now and then. And, if this were a normal administration, it wouldn't get to this point. But we're not in a normal administration. These are not normal times. And, geez, I just don't know what's going to happen here. I know what should happen. The whole thing would be scrapped and it would be gone. But I'm thinking that after the first of the year, you're going to see chaos here, Andy. You're going to see real chaos with people who should have insurance, thought they'd have insurance, but they're not going to have insurance. And then they're going to have something that passes for insurance. And this ain't going to be a pretty sight here, Andy. It really is not going to be a pretty sight at all.
It's nothing different than we've been saying all along, and it may well be the beginning of the year because, again, remember, the government has to pass a budget per this New Deal just to avoid a government shutdown, and they will not pass a budget. I can guarantee that.
No.
Anything in the world. So that could be, you throw that in there. You talk about confidence in this government as we look at the entire world screaming at us for spying on them, and it wouldn't take much for a catastrophic loss in confidence. And first quarter could very well be that time. And don't forget how little the supply of physical gold and silver is right now on the COMEX, on the Shanghai Exchange, on the LBMA. I mean, we're on a tightrope right here.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it. There's enough time to think about the bad things, but you should be prepared. And one of the things I constantly tell people, you need some food. And, when it comes to that, our sponsor, PrepareWise, I'm a little bit of a maniac and I consolidated several households. I've got months worth. You need at least a couple of weeks here. You need a means, right? Survival tools. You need survival tools. You need water. I've got a whole swimming pool full of it with a purification kit. If you don't have a swimming pool, you need to have like a gallon or two per day per person. So at least 10, 20 gallons of water. And then you can sit back and let everybody else kill themselves, basically, right?
Yep.
I hate to be so
grim. I don't look at it that way, but I certainly agree with the concept.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do here, What are your choices? Right?
There's fortunately there are choices now, but you have to make them quickly. There's only so much gold and silver out there, and there's only so many protection strategies to be undertaken, and you can't just wait for things to happen, because once they happen, it's too late.
Yep, you got that right. So on that note, Andy, next week, and I'm going to have a lot more information for you then on exactly where this thing is heading, Obamacare, and what you need to do. It's becoming a little bit clearer by the day. So till then, Andy, milesfranklin.com, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. God, we've been talking for years now, Andy. You know that?
Yeah, well, I just hit 2 years at Miles Franklin this week. So
a year and a half?
At that time, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Well, till next week, go there, sign up for the newsletter. Go get Andy's newsletter over at Miles Franklin. It's well worth the investment, which is exactly zero.
Yep.
All right. Take it easy there.
Hey, if you're a coffee connoisseur like me, you need to try an amazing new roaster out of LA, Tonks Coffee. These guys are fanatical about delivering the best beans in the world. They source directly from the growers, roast it, and ship it to you within 24 hours, so it's the most fresh coffee you've ever tasted. Every 2 weeks, you get a new batch of incredible beans roasted to perfection. If you're hitting a cafe most mornings, this is a much better and more economical way to get great coffee. Tonks is by subscription only, and they're offering you a free sample. Use the URL tonks.org/liberty. That's TONX.org/liberty. Get some for yourself or send it to someone you know who appreciates the finer things. Tonks.org/liberty. Again, TONX.org/liberty.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.